Everybody still awake? Sounds like you had a lot of fun last night. Yeah, anytime you can dance and flash mob, sounds like a relay. I am just glad to be here. Traveling in the United States today by air is problematic at best. Some of you are chuckling because I'm sure you have your stories. Last week I showed up at my local airport at 5 in the morning to see a gentleman, two people in front of me. All he is wearing are boxer shorts and a t-shirt. Now it's 5 a.m. and I'm trying to process what I'm seeing, and I'm thinking, surely he has a good reason to be standing in his underwear at 5 in the morning. And I can see the TSA agents are kind of distressed, and they call over the airport cop. And the cop looks at the gentleman and he says, "Sir, could you please put your pants on?" His pants go on, and he looks at the gentleman and says, "Sir, why did you take your pants off?" And the gentleman looks up and says, "Well, the TSA guys, they told me I had to take my belt off before I went through the x-ray machine, and it's stuck in my pants, and I told them, sir, if they wanted the belt off, it was coming with the pants." For him, that was logical. They didn't find it real amusing. So I get up to the TSA folks, and I travel nearly every week, so I know most of them. And so I started to kid them and say, "Geez, you guys thought your job was so boring." And one of the female TSA agents looks at me and says, "That's nothing." She said 2 months ago she looked up from her x-ray machine, and in line is this guy stark naked, just wearing his tighty-whities. Clothes all folded nice and neat in the bin to go through the x-ray machine. And I looked at her and I said, "You're kidding me, right?" And she's like, "No, that happened." I said, "Well, what did you do?" She goes, "Well, we put him through the whole security process. We warranted him. They did it all. And then we handed him his clothes and said, 'Sir, if you'd like to fly tomorrow, come dressed.'" So I'm just really thankful I'm here and everybody was wearing their clothes in the airport. I've been relaying for 20 years. The first 7 was as a volunteer. Chaired a relay, was a logistics guy, the team development guy, the sponsorship guy, the publicity guy. You guys understand that because once you get on a committee, you do it all. And then I was fortunate enough to become a divisional volunteer and a national volunteer for relay. It was the 7 best years of my life. And even when I became a staff person, I still volunteered at my local Relay for Life. Now, there was a way we used to talk about relay 20 years ago, how we explained it, that's been lost. And so I'm here today to give you a presentation that maybe will make some sense to you, maybe provide a different way to think about relay, to explain relay to other people. What is the relay brand? How do you explain one man creating an event that has grown to the largest not-for-profit fundraising event in the world in 27 years? It is the largest in mankind's history. It's so large, it's hard to put your hands around. How do you explain to somebody that when you see someone wearing a Relay for Life t-shirt, it's like an open-ended invitation to a conversation? You'll see them in a mall, you'll see them in a grocery store, you'll see them on a college campus, and you know you can go up and talk to them. How do you explain to somebody that at a relay, people will bring their newborn children for the first time just to show them off? They'll do their marriage proposals at relay. They'll get married at relay. They have their family reunions at relay. They plan their entire summer vacations around Relay for Life. How do you explain to someone how a cancer patient will will themselves to live another 3 months just to walk another survivor's lap? How do you explain that when we lose our cancer patients, they ask for the Relay for Life logo to be engraved on their tombstone? That when they're laying into their casket, They want to wear their Relay for Life t-shirt and the medals and the badges. I was driving around with one of our relay vendors in Atlanta. We were talking about various relay products that are very popular. And he mentions the Relay for Life Afghan. It's this long Afghan, really thick, has a new creative design every year. And I said, yes, that is a great product. And I just remember seeing out of the side of my eye his face. I'll never forget the look on his face. And he just says, Marty, you don't understand. They're ordering the Afghan to be laid on their coffins during their final service. I know of no other brand that can tell these stories. This logo, the Relay for Life logo, is not a logo. It is a badge of honor for miles walked, dollars raised, lives lost, and lives saved. It means something. So let's see if we can understand why. Relay for Life is not a fundraising event. It is a life-changing experience. Now, you can run it as a fundraising event, or you can run it as a life-changing experience. Volunteer said to me a couple weeks ago, he goes, no, Marty, we keep running across these relay events that they look like a relay, they feel like a relay, but they really aren't a relay. Nobody is emotionally engaged here. It's kind of like, I don't know, a church fundraiser or a Rotarian fundraiser. He didn't mean that disparagingly. It's just all of you in this room have gone to lots of different nonprofit fundraising events. Just like me. I can't remember most of them. At Relay, you can experience the whole range of human emotions, from utter grief and sorrow to joy and happiness, where a survivor can meet another survivor who has the same type of cancer and is alive, where a caregiver can walk with another caregiver and in one lap realize they have traveled the same path and they find support and healing. Relay for Life is a life-changing experience. What is the Relay brand? The Relay brand is tribal, ceremonial, and spiritual. We are a tribe-based species. It is how we have survived. When we came on this planet, there were a lot of critters a lot larger than us. We needed some help. Not just physically, but emotionally. We needed someone to talk to rely on. And we have always had ceremonies. It was our way of processing the world. We had ceremonies for when someone was born. We had ceremonies when we lost someone. We had ceremonies when we needed crops to grow. We had ceremonies when the crops didn't grow. We'd have ceremonies asking for rain. We'd have ceremonies saying, stop, we want no more rain. And we'd have ceremonies to gather the tribe together to protect itself. And we have always been spiritual. We have always felt that there was something greater than ourselves, that we had a higher purpose. At Relay, we gather as the Relay for Life tribe, united in common cause to eradicate a disease. And we have our ceremonies. We celebrate life. We remember those we have lost, and we fight back. And we are spiritual, because we have gathered together as a community to eradicate a disease so that no other generation has to face it. What is the Relay brand? It is a brand owned by its customers. In fact, everybody kind of gets to tailor-make their experience at Relay. There are only a few standards up top, standards that have been adopted internationally, no blink of the eye. They're relaying in Malaysia, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, all across the globe the way we are. Communities take that basic product and they make it their own. They make it reflective of their community, of their culture. And people who get to come to Relay tailor their experience. I can come to the kickoff meeting, I won't come to the kickoff meeting. I'll go to the team captain meetings, I won't go to the team captain meetings. I'll have a tent, I won't have a tent. I'll decorate it, I won't decorate it. I'll walk, I won't walk. It's up to you to tailor your experience at a Relay for Life. Very, very unique. There was a man named Maslow. Ring a bell for high school and college students? He believed all human beings operate off the same set of needs. Relay for Life is one of the very few products out there that can actually meet all of human needs. Bear with me, but this makes some sense. Maslow believed you had to accomplish the needs at the bottom of your pyramid to worry about the needs at the top. You have basic physical needs. You have to eat today, drink today, have clothing, and have shelter. And folks, if you don't have that, you're not real interested about having buddies. And you have security needs. You need food, drink, shelter, and clothing, not just today. You need tomorrow, the month after, the year after, not only for yourself, but for your family. Those basic needs at the bottom of the pyramid, if they're not met, you don't care about developing your self-esteem. And you say to yourself, yeah, but how does cancer impact that? Yet you have all heard the story I've heard. Did you hear Linda got cancer? That doesn't make sense. I mean, she's young. She exercises nearly every day of the week. Have you seen what she eats? There's nobody healthier. Cancer is a threat. It doesn't care your gender, how much you make, where you work, where you live, your sexual orientation. It doesn't care. It's going to get you. Maybe not today, but it will tomorrow. It is the most feared disease in this country. It is a threat to the base of your pyramid. It is a threat to yourself and your family. And you know it. That's why there's 4 million people walking tracks. Does Relay meet your social needs? Surely last night's an example of that, right? Anybody that saw that would say, Relay's a party. Meet your self-esteem needs. At Relay, you see people raise $100 for the first time that never could have asked for $5 a month before. You see people as captain of teams, sitting on committees, doing something to build themselves. And self-actualization. Be the most you can be. That is you people in this room as the volunteer and staff leaders of the Relay movement. You are pushing yourselves to do the most to end this disease. Relay for Life, one of the very few products that can meet all of a human being's needs. But how does Relay work? There is a method to the madness. We just don't talk about it anymore. See, we have ceremonies, but the ceremonies aren't about ceremonies. I mean, they are, but they're not. See, the thing is, most relayers, they don't come to your kickoff. They don't come to your team captain meetings. They probably don't get your newsletters. And maybe they go to your website. They're not getting a lot of information, and then they're showing up at a Relay for Life, and what happens? It is your opportunity to make it personal, to make it meaningful. In your ceremonies, you could explain to them the American Cancer Society's efforts to provide support to cancer patients and their families. You could explain Relay for Life as an international movement to eradicate a disease. You could have survivors talk and caregivers talk. Not just to have them tell their stories, but so that the listeners can hear themselves in those stories and realize they're not alone in what they have gone through. And you can play music that will let people clap and laugh and cry. You can emotionally move them. And if you do, they will be yours for life. And at our best relays, they do that. Games, activities, and on-site fundraising. It seems so simple. And it's true. You have to have fun at relay. It's funny, I was talking to an event a while back, and they're like, Marty, we can't keep people overnight. I'm like, really? Well, what's going on? Tell me how it works. Turns out at about 10 o'clock at night, they turn off their sound system. You got any games and activities? No, not really. And we got to turn down the lights, and it just went on from there. And I'm just like going, well, I sure as heck wouldn't stay. I mean, think about it. Be serious. You have to have fun, nonstop fun. But here's the key. It's not really about the fun. It's about what's happening during the fun. Because what we want to have happen is for people to meet each other, to share their stories, to build relationships, so they come back next year. I don't know about you guys. I've got 4 kids, age 4 to 17. Today, my wife is involved with 4 soccer games. Every Saturday, 4 soccer games. It's crazy. We never even see our friends anymore. But at relay, we'll meet up. That's where we'll have our conversations. And when you have games, activities, and on-site fundraising that allow people to talk and meet each other, it adds a richness and value to the event. One of the simplest games we ever had in relay. Little did we know what we had. Lap poker. You put people in teams of 5, so they're on 5 different teams, but they're going to work as one team now. They're going to get one card, walk a lap, get another card. They make bets as they go around the track. What is happening there? 5 strangers talking to each other for a lap, for another lap, for another lap. After 5 laps, they bet their final hand. What do you think happens after that? They want to do it again. They just made 5 friends. There is a purpose to the fun, the games, and the activities. Entertainment, music, live bands, sets the entire tone for the event. You walk into a good relay, you can almost touch it in the air. And then you turn the music off, and it's just like, 10 minutes of just this breath of fresh air, and then the music ramps up again, and all of a sudden you got 500 people doing the YMCA out in the middle of a football field. Absolute craziness, just because of the music. Walking the track. It's one of the building blocks of the relay brand, one of its key components. It's also the one thing that seems to be dropping by the wayside. You'll go to relays and people just ain't walking. This has got to be very confusing to people. Think about it. All the new people that come to relay, they do those walk events and those running events and those bike events, and somebody puts a bib number on them to identify them and their team, and they count their mileage, or they know how far they're going to walk, and somebody gives them their time. And then they show up at a relay. Nobody identifies their team. Nobody cares if they walk. And yet it's called Relay for Life. One person on the track at all times. At least one person from every team on the track at all times. And if we don't encourage the walking, we're doing them a disservice. In our research, people have come back to us and said that their very first volunteer activity for the American Cancer Society was coming to a relay and walking the track. They understand the symbolic value of walking that track. You know the people like me that come to relay to walk a specific set of miles. I'm walking 32 miles because that's when my sister died from breast cancer. I'm walking 65 miles because that's when my mom was declared cancer-free. My friend Zach Nguyen, ultramarathoner, would run nonstop for 24 hours at relay. His record, 104 miles. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. 104. And survivors and caregivers and teams would line the track during those 24 hours and bring him food and drink. Do you not think they understood the symbolism? Those miles matter. But are we giving them meaning? You know, lap counting began in Tacoma, Washington, where relay began. But somewhere along the way, somebody said, you know, this relay thing, it's really complicated. There's so much to do. That lap counting thing is just not that important. We won't worry about that. Really? Because when everybody's walking, it creates an energy. When everybody's walking, they meet each other, they share their stories, they are doing something to fight back. Overnight. The essence of the relay brand. I'm sure you've all heard the story that relay is overnight because cancer does not sleep. You've all heard this story. I have heard. Bob, diagnosed with prostate cancer on a Friday afternoon. Bob, we know it's prostate cancer now. Haven't kind of worked out all the details. We're not sure what the protocol is going to be. Come back on Tuesday and we'll figure it out. Thanks. And Bob goes home and he wakes up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and he wonders, am I going to live? You know, that's not just the story of the survivor. That's the story of the caregiver. Because the caregiver is waking up in the middle of the night too. And they're wondering, is my spouse going to live? Is my child going to be okay? We are overnight to make a statement. We are drawing a line in the sand. We're saying enough is enough. We want cancer ended today, not tomorrow. We will be here. Now, somewhere along the line, someone thought that when we said overnight, that meant they had to stay awake the whole time. In fact, we went and did some focus groups in the country, and we were talking to folks, and after they got comfortable with us, they'd raise their hands and they'd say, do we have to go overnight? We just get so tired, and you know, you can just see how sad they are, and you look at them and go, have you thought about going to sleep? No, I'm serious. And they looked at me like I was from Mars. Like somehow I was so outside the box they couldn't get it. I said, no, seriously, you don't have to stay up. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean? It's 2 a.m. What's happening? They're just having fun walking around a track. It takes all 10 of you to be awake. Go to sleep. Put one person on duty. Let that person know where everybody else is taking their nap. It could be in the Winnebago. It could be in a tent. It could be over in a hotel and back in a couple hours. Exchange cell phone numbers. Call it a day. It is an overnight event. It's not a let's don't sleep for 12 to 24 hours event. You know, it's interesting. The fastest growing events in this country right now are endurance events. Marathons, biking across a state, climbing a mountain. People want to do something that's memorable and has meaning. Do we not think that a 12 to 24-hour relay for life overnight is not memorable? Does it not have meaning? But the question is, are we telling people that anymore? Because I remember the old days, we'd walk into supermarkets and our sweatshirts would say on the back, do you know 12 people you want to spend the night with? And people would hear, what are you doing? What's this thing on your shirt? So I'm doing Relay for Life. What's Relay about? We're trying to end cancer. It goes, in our part of the country, it's 24 hours. Really? You're doing a 24-hour event? You're not going to sleep? Well, I didn't say that. We'll sleep some. And people will look at you and go, how much can I give you? Because you're sacrificing something to end a disease. Why does relay work? Cancer is the great unifier. You can walk into any room and say, has cancer touched you personally? Your friends, your loved ones, your neighbors, your coworkers? 90% of the hands will go up. Come back in 6 months, the rest will be there. Everyone will eventually be impacted by cancer. You are not alone at Relay. It may be the first time that you realize that your cancer experience is shared by how many other people? You've been there at a Relay and you see someone, you go, I didn't know she had cancer. I didn't know he had cancer. It is a brand that is a gift. How many people have we tried to convince to come to a Relay? And they just kind of put you off and put you off. But eventually you get them there, and they watch that survivor's lap, and they come up to you, and they go, okay, I get it. I get it. Relay is a gift. It is a brand that is so unique, our competition isn't even trying to duplicate it. They think it's too hard. Yeah, it's a little hard. Cancer, a lot harder. It creates a strong sense of identity. Heck, we use relay as a noun, a verb, an adjective as an adverb. We identify ourselves as relayers. Relay is about survivors and caregivers, these two huge populations of people that need healing and hope. You know, caregivers started a Relay. That's who started Relay. There was no survivor's lap in the beginning. That was put in later as a way of recognizing survivors. And now we're trying to build caregivership into the event. And we have some committees that are going, no, it's really not that important to me. I don't need to be thanked or recognized. You know what? That's okay. But there are thousands of caregivers in your community that need support, that need healing, that need hope. That's why caregivership is part of Relay for Life. Why does Relay work? Tangible proof that hope is alive. How else can you explain 600 survivors walking around a track? It allows you to see the very best in people. In 20 years, I've never met a relayer I didn't like, except for Margaret. And you all have Margaret on your committees. You do. Yep. She's that negative force of nature that throws down every good idea that's thrown on the table, and you go, how the heck are we going to deal with Margaret? You know, and you're afraid to confront her, because what's she going to do? So here's what I figured out after 20 years. One piece of knowledge. There's something about Margaret's. They only have 2 friends, and they're as ornery as she is, so don't worry about her. Move forward. Relay is a safe place to share your stories. It is the only place I have seen grown men cry, and they know it's okay. Relay is an event anyone and everyone can participate in. I've seen teams of Down syndrome children. I've seen teams of the brain injured. At our event, we had a team of the blind. Now, it was a little problematic at first because the dogs didn't understand they were supposed to walk in circles, and they kept taking their blind masters off into the woods. You know, once we trained the dogs, it worked. And I'll just never forget those folks coming over to us and saying thanks. It was the first public event they had ever been involved with the sighted community. Why does Relay work? It belongs to the American Cancer Society. There is no way that over 27 years you raise over $4 billion if that money is just going to Relay for Life. Relay for Life is not a nonprofit. It doesn't fund research. It doesn't have programs and services. They're writing their checks to the American Cancer Society. Their credit card receipts are made out to the American Cancer Society. When they go and make donations online, it's to an American Cancer Society website. It is our trump card. It is the trust. It is the way we are eliminating the disease. And why does Relay work? It's purple. You guys get it. That means something. I had a hard time trying to figure out how to explain that. I mean, how do you explain purple? I get emails nearly every month. What is behind the color purple? And I was working on this presentation, and I was stuck upstairs working on it, and I just threw in the towel and said, I'm going to go have lunch. And I walked downstairs, and my wife's working in the kitchen. She worked for the American Cancer Society for 15 years, ran 4 relays. And she's watching Oprah, and she has it paused. I kind of have this special connection to Oprah. I had surgery a couple years ago, and I had to take massive doses of Vicodin for about 2 weeks straight. Nobody told me it was a depressant. My wife walked in on me at like 4 in the afternoon. I'm watching Oprah Winfrey, and I'm just bawling. We all have our Oprah story, you know. She's watching the third to last show of Oprah Winfrey, and my wife says to me, do you remember Maddie Stepanek? And I said, yeah, I do remember Maddie, who's this young little kid who was fighting muscular dystrophy. It was a real rare form. It was going to be terminal. He knew it. And in his short life, he wrote like 6 books of poetry. He was a peace activist. He was friends with the Carters. And every time he spoke, it was like wisdom came out. I said, yeah, I do remember him. And my wife says to me, did you know he was an artist? And I said, no. And she goes, his favorite color was purple. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. She goes, no. In those words again, you don't get it. Listen to what his mom said. Purple meant to Maddie. Maddie believed that purple was the color of hope. That it symbolized everything that we can be. Not what happens to us, but what we choose to do with what happens around us. As relayers, we're not willing to accept cancer and what cancer is trying to do to us. We are going to work together to eliminate it. So we have a choice, a fundamental question we have to answer. Are we going to run Relay as a fundraising event? Or are we going to run it as a life-changing experience that provides healing, hope, empowerment, inspiration? At this relay, 2,000 people have gathered in the stands for opening ceremony. At the base of the stands, a group of Native American drummers have gathered in a drum circle, are banging on their drums, and it's echoing across the valley. Their drumming is the calling of the tribe. And in the opening ceremony, people will hear about the American Cancer Society's commitment to help cancer patients and their families. They will hear about Relay for Life as an international movement to eradicate a disease. They will hear stories from survivors and caregivers. A 65-year-old cancer survivor will sing the national anthem a cappella. That night during the Luminaria ceremony, the ceremony of hope, people will hear 3 stories from cancer survivors, some who've been long-term survivors, some still in treatment. And they will hear 3 stories from caregivers. Caregivers who have lost someone and caregivers who still have someone alive. And the next morning, a gentleman will approach a couple of the committee members and say, thanks. Thank you for having this relay. Because 6 months ago, I lost my brother to cancer. And his 2 children didn't cry that day, and they have not cried for 6 months since. but they've been at your relay. They went to the Luminaria ceremony last night, and afterwards, they went back to their tent and they cried. And I knew they were going to be okay. My name's Marty Coelho. I work for the American Cancer Society, and I'm a relayer. Thank you.